The alarm screamed at 6:47 a.m., 17 minutes late. Marcus reached for his phone through the fog of interrupted sleep, swiping away 14 notifications before his eyes could focus. Investor deck due at 9. Team stand-up at 10. Performance review at 2. His calendar glowed like an accusation. He'd meant to wake at 5:30. He'd set 3 alarms. He'd promised himself last night, again, that tomorrow would be different, that he'd finally become the kind of person who didn't need 3 alarms, who didn't hit snooze, who had discipline. The coffee maker gurgled in the kitchen of his cluttered San Francisco studio. Gym clothes sat folded on the chair where they'd been for 6 days. The meditation app he'd downloaded in January had sent its last hopeful notification in March. It was now September. Marcus worked in tech, project management for a Series B startup that pivoted every quarter and hemorrhaged talented people every month. He was good at his job. Great even when the pressure spiked and everything caught fire. But the fires never stopped, and somewhere in the last 2 years he'd stopped being able to turn off. His mind ran at full speed from the moment he opened his eyes until he finally collapsed around 1 a.m., phone still glowing beside his pillow. He'd tried everything: productivity apps, time blocking, the Pomodoro technique, cold showers, intermittent fasting, dopamine detox challenges. Each lasted between 4 days and 2 weeks before the chaos of work swallowed them whole. The truth he didn't say out loud. He was terrified he lacked something fundamental: discipline, willpower, the thing that separated people who succeeded from people who just barely held on. That morning, clearing space on his desk for the investor deck, he knocked over a cardboard box he'd been meaning to unpack for months. His grandfather's things. The old man had died last spring. A quiet, orderly death at 89, in the same rent-controlled apartment in the Sunset where he'd lived since 1972. Inside the box, a wool cardigan that still smelled faintly of pipe tobacco, a wristwatch that had stopped at 3:15, a stack of black and white photographs, and at the bottom, wrapped in rice paper, a calligraphy brush. Marcus held the brush. Feud, his grandfather had called it. Horsehair bristles, bamboo handle worn smooth by decades of use. His grandfather had practiced Japanese calligraphy every morning before work. Marcus remembered watching as a child, the old man kneeling at a low table, moving the brush with impossible slowness, breathing in rhythm with each stroke. "Why so slow, Grandpa?" "Because you cannot erase, so you must be completely here." Marcus set the brush on his desk beside the laptop. He had 47 minutes before the investor meeting. He opened his presentation. Slide 3 had a typo. Slide 7's data was from last quarter. Slide 11 contradicted Slide 4. He'd been working on this deck for 2 weeks, and somehow it had gotten worse. His hands moved fast across the keyboard, fixing, revising, panicking in efficient increments. This was how he worked now. Everything last minute, everything held together by adrenaline and guilt. The meeting went badly. Not disaster badly, but the kind of bad where everyone's too polite to say it, and the follow-up email uses words like align and revisit and when bandwidth permits. Marcus spent lunch scrolling. A video appeared in his feed, the hidden discipline secret of Japanese samurai. Normally he'd swipe past, but the thumbnail showed a man kneeling on tatami, arranging a sword with the care someone might use handling a newborn. He clicked. The video wasn't what he expected. No yelling, no extreme challenges, no productivity hacks. Just a calm voice explaining how samurai didn't rely on motivation. They built systems, rituals, environments where discipline became inevitable. One line stuck: "Discipline is not what you do when you feel strong. It is what happens when you have removed the need to feel anything at all." That night, Marcus sat at his desk staring at his grandfather's calligraphy brush. In the video, they'd mentioned calligraphy, how samurai practiced it daily, not as art, but as mental training. One stroke, no revision, total presence or total failure. He could try that. Just one thing, one small ritual. He found a video tutorial, bought basic supplies on Amazon with overnight shipping, set his alarm for 5:30 a.m. At 1:15 a.m., lying in bed with his phone casting blue light across his face, Marcus felt the familiar spiral. He'd never wake up on time. He'd fail at this too. He should just accept he wasn't that kind of person, but he thought about his grandfather, kneeling at that low table every morning for 50 years. He put the phone in the bathroom, closed the bedroom door. The room went dark. If you've ever felt tired, even after a full night of sleep, or frustrated with diets that don't last, tell us in the comments which part of this story feels familiar, and stay with us for the next chapters. The alarm at 5:30 a.m. felt like violence. Marcus's hand reached automatically for his phone before remembering it wasn't there. He lay in the dark, bargaining. 5 more minutes. Just 5. But he'd learned the first samurai habit from that video, rising at the same time every day without negotiation, not because it felt good, because the body would learn the hour. He stood, walked to the bathroom, splashed cold water on his face. His reflection looked how he felt, hollowed out, underslept, resentful. In the kitchen, he cleared a small space on the dining table, laid out the calligraphy supplies, inkstone, inkstick, water, brush, practice paper. The tutorial video had made it look meditative. This felt awkward and frustrating. He ground the inkstick against the stone, adding water drop by drop. The friction made a sound like breathing. He dipped the brush, held it the way the video showed, vertical, supported by all fingers. The first stroke was a disaster. Too much ink. The paper bled. He tried again. Too dry. Again. The line shook. 15 minutes later, surrounded by ruined paper, Marcus felt more anxious than when he started. This was supposed to calm his mind. Instead, every failed stroke felt like proof he couldn't even do something this simple. But he'd committed to 30 minutes, 23 minutes left. He slowed down, breathed, dipped the brush with less ink, held his breath during the stroke. The line still shook, but less. He made another, then another. By minute 28, something strange happened. He forgot to check the time, forgot about the investor meeting, forgot about the performance review later. There was only the brush, the paper, the breath. When the timer chimed, Marcus felt, not calm exactly, but emptier, like something loud had been turned down. He cleaned the brush carefully, wrapped it in cloth, put everything away. Showered, made coffee, checked his calendar. Today looked exactly like yesterday. Back-to-back meetings, 3 deadlines, 17 unread slacks. But for the first time in months, he arrived at the office before 8 a.m. His co-worker Derek noticed. "You're here early, pulling an all-nighter?" "No, just woke up earlier." Derek laughed. "Let me know when the new productivity kick fails. I give it a week." Marcus didn't argue. Derek ran on cold brew and ambient panic. They'd started at the company the same month 2 years ago. Derek still worked until midnight most nights, wore exhaustion like a badge, mocked anyone who left before 7 p.m. In the afternoon, Marcus had his performance review with Sarah, his manager. She was kind but direct. "Your work is solid when you're locked in, but you're missing deadlines. Investor deck yesterday was rough. I need you consistent, not just good under pressure." Marcus nodded. "I know. I'm working on it." "Are you?" Sarah's tone softened. "Because you look exhausted." "I'm worried about burnout." He almost told her about the calligraphy, about waking at 5:30, about trying to build discipline like the samurai did. But it sounded absurd. He'd only done it once. "I'm fine," he said. That night, Derek invited him to a startup networking event. "Come on, man. You need to be visible. That's how you level up." Marcus thought about it. The event started at 7. He'd get home by 10, maybe 11, be in bed by midnight if he was lucky. Alarm at 5:30. "I can't tonight." "Dude, you're 32, not 62. Live a little." Marcus went home, ate a simple dinner, avoided screens after 9 p.m. Another samurai habit he'd learned, respecting the body's need for darkness. In bed by 10:15. Lights off, phone still in the bathroom. He lay awake for 40 minutes, mind racing through tomorrow's tasks, rehashing the performance review, wondering if he was being ridiculous, wondering if Derek was right. But at 5:30 a.m., when the alarm sounded, he got up. And at the table, with the brush in his hand, something in his nervous system remembered. Day 3, day 4, day 5. By day 7, the calligraphy practice still looked terrible, but the ritual had taken root. His body woke before the alarm. The mornings felt less chaotic, the brush strokes steadied. On day 9, Derek commented again, "You're seriously still doing the 5:30 thing?" "Yeah." "Why?" Marcus considered. "I'm trying something different, not force, just rhythm." Derek shook his head. "Whatever works for you, man. I'll stick with caffeine." That afternoon, Marcus found another video about samurai discipline. This one mentioned caring for tools, how samurai cleaned their swords every morning, not for maintenance, but for mental training. The act itself mattered more than the object. Marcus thought about his desk, his laptop covered in old coffee rings, charging cables tangled in a drawer, notes scattered everywhere. That night, he cleaned his workspace, wiped down the laptop, organized cables, threw away old papers. It took 20 minutes. The next morning, sitting down to work felt different, calmer, like the environment had stopped shouting. He remembered another line from the video. "Discipline is not force, it is design." 3 weeks in, Marcus noticed small shifts he hadn't intended. His sleep tracker, an app he'd ignored for months, showed his average sleep improving from 5.8 hours to 6.7. Still not perfect, but better. His resting heart rate had dropped 8 points. He felt less jittery, but the biggest change was internal. The mornings no longer felt like a fight. His body woke naturally around 5:25. The calligraphy practice, still imperfect, had become the anchor. Everything else in the day could spiral, but those 30 minutes were his. At work, Sarah noticed. "You're different lately. More focused." "Thanks." "What changed?" Marcus hesitated. "I started waking up earlier. Doing something before work starts." "Like what? Gym? Calligraphy?" Sarah blinked. "Calligraphy? Japanese calligraphy. It's hard to explain. It helps me start the day present instead of panicked." She didn't laugh. "Whatever you're doing, keep it up. I can see it in your work." That validation felt good. But Marcus knew he was only scratching the surface. The video about samurai discipline had mentioned 9 habits total. He'd barely started. That weekend, he went deeper. Watched a documentary about Bushido. Read excerpts from Hagakure, learned that samurai discipline wasn't about punishment or deprivation. It was about removing internal friction, about making the hard choice the easy choice. He started implementing the second habit, physical training as pattern recognition, not for strength, for the body to move before the mind could interfere. He couldn't swing a wooden sword in his apartment, but he could do push-ups, bodyweight squats. A simple routine, 10 minutes every morning after calligraphy. Day 1 hurt. His body had forgotten how to move with intention. But by day 5, the movements felt cleaner. His mind wandered less. On day 8, during a tense meeting with investors, he noticed something. His heart rate stayed steady. Usually he'd spiral. Today his nervous system stayed calm. The third habit was meditation, zazen, sitting in silence, observing thoughts without attachment. Marcus downloaded a meditation app he'd tried before and abandoned. This time felt different. He wasn't trying to clear his mind or find peace. He was just sitting, breathing, watching his thoughts like traffic passing. 5 minutes after calligraphy, 5 minutes after the physical routine. It wasn't transformative, but it was consistent. Derek mocked him at lunch. "So you wake up at 5:30 to write Japanese letters and sit in silence. Dude, that's not discipline. That's a midlife crisis." "I'm 32. Exactly, quarter-life crisis." But Marcus noticed Derek looked worse, thinner, more wired. He lived on energy drinks and worked until 11 p.m. most nights. He talked constantly about grinding and leveling up, but seemed more anxious every week. "How much are you sleeping?" Marcus asked. "Sleep is for the weak, bro. I'll sleep when I'm dead." Marcus wanted to say, "You're killing yourself." But he didn't. People had to find their own way. That night, Derek texted him at 11:47 p.m. "You up?" "No." "Asleep." "Lame." Marcus put the phone back in the bathroom. In the darkness, he thought about discipline, about how Derek thought it meant suffering, pushing, forcing. But the samurai knew different. Discipline was the removal of decisions, the creation of systems where the right thing became automatic. A month in, Marcus hit his first real test. The company announced a major pivot: emergency all-hands meeting, new product direction, aggressive timeline. Everyone needed to be all in. The CEO, young and caffeinated, addressed the team. "This is crunch time. I need warriors. I need people who can go hard for the next 6 weeks and ship this thing. If you're not ready to sacrifice, now's the time to step back." The room buzzed with performative enthusiasm. Derek practically vibrated. "Hell yeah, let's do this." Marcus felt the old pull, the identity of being the guy who could handle anything, the one who stayed latest, who sacrificed sleep, health, relationships to hit the deadline. But he thought about his morning routine, about the calligraphy brush, about the way his nervous system had started to calm after years of living in fight or flight. After the meeting, Sarah pulled him aside. "I know what you're thinking. Don't." "Don't what?" "Don't go back to how you were. Burning out won't make this product ship faster. It'll just break you. Everyone else is going all in. Everyone else is going to crash in 3 weeks. You're the only one building something sustainable." That night, Marcus made a choice. He would work hard, meet deadlines, but he wouldn't abandon the morning routine. He wouldn't destroy his sleep. He wouldn't sacrifice the small disciplines that had started to rebuild his nervous system. Derek texted the team channel at 1:32 a.m. "Still grinding. Who's with me?" Marcus was asleep. Alarm set for 5:30. Calligraphy brush waiting on the table. Would you rather force yourself with willpower or redesign your environment and habits like this character is learning to do? Comment which path makes more sense to you, and share this episode with someone who needs a gentler approach to change. The 6-week sprint began like a siege. The office transformed into a performance of productivity. Standing desks cluttered with empty cold brew cans, engineers sleeping under desks, a Slack channel called Night Owls, where people posted screenshots of their work at 3 a.m. like trophies. Marcus watched it with strange detachment. A year ago he would have been at the center. Now he arrived at 8 a.m., worked with focus, left at 6:30 p.m. Derek noticed. "Leaving already? Dude, we're in crunch mode. I'll be more useful tomorrow if I sleep tonight." That's not how you win. But Marcus had started learning a fourth samurai habit, memento mori, daily contemplation of death, not morbidly, but clarifying. When you treated each day as though it could be your last, the urgency shifted. Impressing strangers at 2 a.m. mattered less. Sleep, health, presence mattered more. Every morning after meditation, he spent 2 minutes with a simple question. If today were my last day, would I spend it like this? Most days, the answer refined his choices. Week 2 of the sprint, Derek crashed, not metaphorically. He fainted in the office bathroom and had to be sent home with instructions to rest. He was back the next day, joking about it. "Just forgot to eat lunch. I'm fine." Sarah pulled Marcus into a conference room. "I need you to take over Derek's work stream. But I need you to do it your way. Sustainable, not heroic. What if we don't hit the deadline? We will, just not by destroying you." Marcus took the extra work, and for the first time, he applied the habits not just to mornings, but to work itself. Fifth habit, the tea ceremony principle. Slow, intentional action. Every task done with full attention, not rushed. When he coded, he coded. When he answered emails, he only answered emails. No half-present multitasking that made everything take twice as long. Sixth habit, calligraphy applied to work. Each task like a brushstroke, committed, irreversible. He stopped second-guessing, stopped endless revision loops, made a decision, executed cleanly, moved on. By week 3, Marcus was getting more done in 8 hours than Derek had in 12. Sarah noticed. "How are you doing this?" "I'm not trying to do everything. I'm just doing one thing at a time." That's it. That's everything. At home, the apartment had started to shift. Marcus had implemented the 7th habit, environmental minimalism. He'd cleared surfaces, donated old clothes, organized his desk. Every object in his space now had a purpose and a place. The clutter had been constant low-grade stress. With it gone, his mind felt quieter. He found himself cooking simple meals instead of ordering delivery, folding clothes instead of leaving them in piles. Small acts of care that felt like extensions of the calligraphy practice, intentional, present, complete. Week 4, Marcus hit a wall. A critical feature broke. The whole product direction hinged on it. The CEO was panicking. Sarah was stressed. The team was fracturing. Derek, still recovering but back at full intensity, suggested an all-nighter. "We can fix this. Just needs focus." Marcus felt the pull, the old identity, the hero who saved the day by sacrificing himself. But he thought about the 8th samurai habit, service rooted in purpose, not pride. What would actually help the team? Him burning out and producing bad code at 3 a.m., or him resting, coming back fresh, solving the problem with clarity? "I'm going home," Marcus said. "I'll be here at 6 a.m. tomorrow with a fresh mind." Derek looked betrayed. "Are you serious right now?" "Yes." That night, Marcus didn't sleep well. His mind raced. He wanted to fix it, to prove he cared, to not let people down. But at 5:30 a.m., he woke, did his calligraphy, did his physical routine, meditated, and at 6 a.m. he walked into an empty office with a mind that had spent the night unconsciously processing the problem. By 8 a.m., he had the solution. It was elegant, simple. He'd never have seen it at 2 a.m. running on adrenaline. Sarah found him at his desk. "You fixed it?" "I think so." She reviewed the code. "This is perfect." "How?" Marcus thought about his grandfather, kneeling every morning with the calligraphy brush, practicing presence for 50 years so that when life required precision, his hand wouldn't shake. "I slept." Week 6. The product shipped. Not perfectly, but well enough. The team celebrated with overpriced drinks and exhausted relief. Derek looked wrecked, 20 pounds thinner, dark circles, hands shaking slightly. "We did it, man. We fucking did it." Marcus felt a strange sadness. Derek had suffered for this, sacrificed his health, and for what? A product that would probably pivot again in 3 months. "You should rest," Marcus said. "I will. After the next sprint." There was always a next sprint. That night, alone in his apartment, Marcus sat at his desk with the calligraphy brush. His grandfather had left him one more thing in that box, a small journal, filled with 50 years of daily reflection. Hansei, the practice of self-examination. Marcus opened a fresh notebook, wrote the date, one question. What did today teach me? 9th habit, reflection. Making the invisible visible. Patterns, choices, consequences, the discipline not just to act, but to understand the acting. He wrote, "Discipline isn't suffering. It's designing a life where the right choices become inevitable." 3 months after finding his grandfather's calligraphy brush, Marcus sat in Sarah's office for his quarterly review. She opened a document. "Your performance has completely turned around. You're hitting deadlines. Your code quality is better. Team feedback is strong. What changed?" Marcus had spent weeks avoiding this conversation. But sitting there, he realized he wasn't embarrassed anymore. "I stopped trying to force discipline. I started building it." What does that mean? I used to think discipline was about willpower, about pushing harder when things got tough. But I was always breaking, always starting over. Always failing. He paused. Sarah waited. My grandfather practiced Japanese calligraphy for 50 years. Every morning. Same time. Same ritual. I found his brush after he died and started practicing. Not because I wanted to be an artist, because I wanted to understand how he stayed so consistent. And it wasn't about motivation. It was about systems, about removing decisions, about making the environment do the work so my brain didn't have to fight itself every day. Sarah leaned back. You're talking about the samurai stuff. Marcus smiled. I'm talking about designing a life that makes discipline automatic. How? Small things, rising at the same time, starting with a ritual that requires presence, training my body to move without thinking, sitting in silence so my mind learns to observe itself, keeping my space minimal so there's nothing pulling my attention, treating each day like it matters because it might be finite, reflecting on what I learned so patterns become visible. He realized he was talking about all 9 habits now. They'd woven together without him noticing. And it works, Sarah asked. It works because I'm not relying on feeling motivated. I'm just following the system. The discipline emerges from the design. Sarah was quiet for a moment. I've been managing people for 10 years. Most people burn out or quit. You're the first person I've seen actually build something sustainable. Marcus felt something shift. Not pride exactly, more like relief. Can I tell you the real secret? He said. Please. I spent years thinking I lacked something. That other people had discipline and I didn't. That I was broken or weak or fundamentally flawed. And now I understand. Nobody has discipline, not as a trait, not as a permanent characteristic. Discipline is what happens when you remove the need to decide, when you build a life where the right thing is simply what you do. Sarah nodded slowly. Like your grandfather with the calligraphy. Exactly, he wasn't special. He just practiced the same thing every day for 50 years until it became who he was. That night, Marcus met his friend Rachel for dinner. They'd known each other since college, but had drifted. She'd texted him a few weeks ago. You seem different lately. Want to catch up? Over sushi, she asked directly. What happened to you? What do you mean? You're calmer, more present. You used to be so wired all the time. Marcus told her about the brush, the habits, the samurai discipline framework. He expected her to think it was weird. Instead, she said, I need that. I'm drowning. Work is insane. I sleep 4 hours. I'm on Adderall just to function, and I hate it. You don't need Adderall. You need a different system. But I don't have time to... That's the lie, Marcus interrupted gently. You don't have time because your current system is eating all your time. 30 minutes in the morning would save you hours of scattered, anxious spinning later. Rachel looked skeptical, but interested. Would you teach me? Marcus thought about Derek, who'd dismissed everything. About the CEO, still glorifying all-nighters. About Sarah, who got it but was trapped in a larger culture. Yes, he said, I'll teach you. They made a plan. She'd start with one thing, waking at the same time for 7 days. That's it. Just proving to her nervous system that she controlled when the day began. Walking home, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose that wasn't tied to a product launch or a promotion, or impressing anyone. At home, he opened his Hansei journal, wrote, Today I understood. The samurai didn't build discipline to win battles. They built it to stop fighting themselves. His phone buzzed. Derek. Hey man, can we talk? I'm not okay. Marcus called him. Derek sounded exhausted. I can't keep doing this. I thought I was tough. I thought I could outwork everyone. But I'm falling apart. I know. How did you stop? Marcus looked at the calligraphy brush on his desk. I stopped believing discipline was about suffering. I started believing it was about design. I don't know what that means. It means you don't need to be stronger. You need to build a life where being weak doesn't matter, where the system carries you even when you don't feel motivated. Silence. Then, can you help me? Yes. They talked for an hour. Marcus didn't try to convince him, just explained the habits, the logic, the way it rewired the nervous system over time. Derek said, I'll try. 1 week. That's all you need to start. After the call, Marcus sat at his desk. He thought about his grandfather, about the calligraphy brush, used every morning for 50 years, about discipline not as a battle to win, but as a life to build, brick by brick, stroke by stroke. He dipped the brush, made a single character on fresh paper. It wasn't perfect. After 3 months, it still wasn't perfect, but his hand didn't shake. 1 year later, Marcus woke at 5:27 a.m., 3 minutes before his alarm. His body knew the hour. He rose, walked to the kitchen, ground tea leaves. While water heated, he sat at the low table he'd bought to replace his old desk, laid out the calligraphy supplies. This ritual, once awkward and frustrating, now felt like breathing. The brush moved. One stroke, another. The characters weren't masterpieces, but they were clean, present, each one complete. After calligraphy, 10 minutes of movement. Push-ups, squats, stretches. His body stronger now, not from gym intensity, but from daily consistency. After movement, 10 minutes of zazen. Sitting, breathing, watching thoughts pass like clouds. By 6:15 a.m., he was showered, dressed, calm. The rest of the world was still asleep, but he'd already won the day. At work, things had shifted profoundly. After the successful product launch, Sarah had been promoted. She'd brought Marcus with her, not as a manager, but as what she called culture architect. His job helped teams build sustainable practices instead of burning out. Derek had been his first project. It took 3 months, but Derek had slowly rewired. He still worked hard, but differently. He slept 7 hours. He took weekends. He'd started rock climbing, not for productivity, but because moving his body without a screen felt revolutionary. "I don't know how you did this," Derek said one morning over coffee. "I didn't do anything. You did. I just showed you the map." "The samurai stuff?" Marcus smiled. The samurai stuff. Rachel, his friend from college, had transformed even more dramatically. She'd quit her job, moved to Portland, started a small consulting practice with boundaries she'd never imagined possible. She texted him photos of her morning routine, tea, journal, yoga on her apartment balcony. "I used to think self-care was selfish," she wrote. "Now I understand it's structural. I'm not taking time away from work. I'm building the foundation that makes work sustainable." The company had noticed. Other teams wanted what Marcus's team had, people who shipped consistently without breaking. The CEO, initially skeptical, had asked Marcus to present at an all-hands. "What's your secret?" the CEO asked. Marcus had thought carefully about how to answer. He couldn't just say samurai discipline. It would sound absurd. But he also couldn't water it down. "There's no secret," he said. "Just a recognition that willpower is finite, but systems are infinite. We stopped asking people to be stronger and started building environments where the right behaviors became automatic." "Like what?" "Like making 5:30 p.m. the default end of day. Like encouraging morning rituals before Slack. Like measuring output by quality and clarity, not hours logged. Like respecting that a rested brain ships better code than an exhausted one grinding at midnight." The CEO nodded slowly. "And this works? Our team's velocity is up 40%, while turnover dropped to 0. You tell me." 3 months after that presentation, the company officially adopted what they called sustainable intensity practices. Not all teams bought in. Some people still believed in hustle culture, in grinding, in sacrifice as virtue, but slowly the culture shifted. Marcus's grandfather had been dead for over a year now, but in a strange way, he felt more present than ever. Every morning, using the brush, Marcus connected to 50 years of quiet discipline, to a man who'd never sought recognition, never posted his routine online, never claimed to have a system. He'd just practiced. Every day, for 50 years. And that practice had rewired not just his grandfather's life, but now Marcus's, and Derek's, and Rachel's, and dozens of others who'd learned discipline isn't force, it's design. One Saturday morning, Marcus visited his grandfather's old apartment. The new tenant, a young woman, was moving in. "Did you know the previous owner?" she asked. "He was my grandfather. He must have been an interesting guy. I found something in the closet. Looks like old calligraphy brushes and stuff." "Want them?" Marcus's heart caught. More brushes, more ink, more evidence of 50 years of practice. "Yes," he said, "I want them." That night, he gave one of the brushes to Derek. "Start with this. 30 minutes every morning. Don't try to be good, just be present." Derek held the brush like it might break. "What if I mess up?" "You will. Every stroke for the first month will be terrible. But that's not the point." "What is the point?" Marcus thought about discipline, about systems, about the samurai who didn't train for battles, but for the removal of internal friction. The point is teaching your nervous system that you control the beginning of the day, that you can do something difficult without motivation. That discipline isn't a personality trait you lack. It's a life you build, one small ritual at a time, until the person you wanted to become is simply who you are. Derek nodded. "I'll try. 1 week. That's all I'm asking." A year later, Derek sent Marcus a photo. His apartment, a low table, calligraphy supplies laid out. The timestamp, 5:47 a.m. The caption, "Day 287, still terrible at calligraphy. Finally okay with that." Marcus saved the photo, added it to a folder he'd been building. Evidence that transformation wasn't about dramatic change or perfect discipline. It was about small, consistent habits, repeated until they became identity. He opened his Hansei journal, wrote, "My grandfather left me a brush. I thought it was just a family heirloom. But it was the key to everything. Proof that discipline isn't what you are, it's what you build, stroke by stroke, day by day, for as long as you live." He closed the journal. Tomorrow he'd wake at 5:30, practice calligraphy, move his body, sit in silence. And the day would unfold from that foundation as it had for 365 days, as it would for 365 more. Not because he was special, not because he'd fixed himself, because he'd stopped fighting his nervous system and started designing around it. The katana on the white silk, the samurai rising in the dark, the calligraphy brush held steady. Discipline wasn't the ability to force yourself, it was the wisdom to remove the need for force at all. If this story reminded you that real transformation comes from small habits repeated over time, not from overnight fixes, subscribe to the channel, tell us which country you watch from, and invite someone to start this journey with you in the next story.